Hello, fellow builders, and welcome back to part 2 of the Mando Habitat build. I don't like the word Mando. They used it in the Mandalorian, and it's just easy. I've decided I don't like it because I'm talking about my Mando, the Bondi one I built that's supposed to be a representative of my character. So when you say Mando, you think that one, but that's not the one we're talking about. That's a lot of exposition just for starting this video. This is just a little short update of what I've got done so far. So let's go over there real quick. Okay. So the Mandalorian I was talking about with this guy. His armor setup matches my armor setup when I cosplay. So that's why, Anyway, I've got my Mando. I needed a place to display them because I didn't want to just put them on the shelf, and I needed an environment. The environment ended up being a billy cube. I have a small billy cube, right? And these are the dimensions of the floor of the billy. So what we're doing is placing these pieces within this environment. One of the pieces that I needed, I've got my K2 droid, right? And he's in my colors because he's a part of my Mando bounty hunting squad. But when they're together, he needs to charge. So this is the charging unit, right? That's where you're laying down. Printed this up in Fusion 360, and and I'm happy with this so far, except for when it was printing, for some reason this area right here didn't print properly. And I was frustrated. I was trying to print this all in one piece. That didn't go well. What I ended up doing is printing this in two halves. Here's the bottom half, and here's the top half. As you can see, I've got the base for the Bondi kit within there. It's too wide. It doesn't fit. So what I ended up having to do was go out to the shed, and using the bandsaw, I trimmed it to fit snugly inside there. So now we can take our K2 droid and put him in his spot. So he fits there just snug. That one's going to go there. All right. So we've got the short one. Well, the short one was for the R2 droid, so I'm going to put that one in that corner. R2 droid, also painted in my colors. And we've got our countertop that goes on that side. So I've got that sanded. That needs to be glued to that, and that will be one piece. That's going to be one piece for the corner. All right. So the other, I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do there. But I did make a back wall counter thing for there. And it's not here. So let me go get it. Nothing fancy. Looks like a bridge. But it goes along this back wall. All right. So that's the goal, for that to be like that. So that gives me this area here, and then all this floor space to fill in with whatever. One of the things I definitely was going to fill it up with, whenever you get a Bondi kit, you have several choices of weapons. So I'm going to make myself like some kind of weapons locker because I've got all these different weapons. Now this is a Gundam weapon. It doesn't even go with this, but who's gonna know? As well as that one and that one. They're all in scale. So, oh well, and then there's also the baton and the shield. Got to find a place for the shield. And then we have more the E11 blaster rifle. You get the idea. But the problem I'm running into is normally I would be building this out as a completed cube. And I would have walls. But this is going into the billy. So there aren't walls. But could there be walls? Of course there could. But here's where I'm going to take a side note. I want to address a problem that I've been having with this build. And it's a bit of a frustration that I'm having with myself. So I'm going to have this modeler moment with you, with me, so you don't have to later. You can just go, oh yeah, I remember it. Okay. So what the issue I'm having is I'm really enjoying building this area, this display setup. But as I'm building the pieces and I'm setting them in place, it's really starting to feel a little bit Barbie dollish. Kind of like the Star Wars version of Barbie's dollhouse. And I kind of had the same issue when I did my sideshow, when I took the sideshows out. It was just like taking it and setting it up, and it just didn't feel like there was a whole lot of building going on. Now, this is different in the fact that there is building going on. We're going in Fusion 360 and deciding what needs to be done and printing it and then painting it and putting it in the environment. But I had to come to grips with the fact that it's not doll play. When you build a model and you just put it on the stand and you set it on the shelf, you've built a model and you put it on the shelf. But when you put it in an environment, when you've given it weathering, when you've done anything to it, you set it in, you're telling a story. You're giving context to what this thing is. If it's noticeable, if it's recognizable, like Luke Skywalker, there's not a whole lot more you need to say, hey, we know Luke Skywalker's story. But these other figures that aren't Luke Skywalkers, these bounty hunters and blah, blah, whatever, I feel like there has to be a little bit of context. And putting them in a display, a diorama, or whatever is doing that. So basically I'm saying, to me, get out of your own head and just finish building and doing what you're doing. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay? So I've had this discussion with me. You don't have to have it. So now let's do a little bit more building. Let's get back to that. Okay, this is disc level view. And it's a good layout so far. I'm happy with this for the most part. But I think we need to look at where it's actually going to go. So we're going to go to the billy. This is the cube that is going in. And the problem I'm having is the billy, this shelf doesn't really have any lighting per se. So the first thing I went and did is got a light for it. I would like for it to have been one that I could put all of them together and hit a switch and they all go on. But for right now, this is going to be fine. And so let's get some pieces in place here to see how they look in the cube it's going to. Gonna start with the floor. Everything is primered, and we'll talk about colors later. But here's our floor, and the back counter, obviously, it's gonna go in there first. Then we're gonna have K2 here, this corner, K2 droid here. R2 droid here. This counter there. Alright. So that's going to be there. Boom, boom, boom. And you've got, for lack of a better term, me. So, like I said, so much open space there. So this was the doorway. This was supposed to be this. It was a failed print. I had it set up like right there in the middle. I had a Mandalorian laying on there. So, you know, that could be a bed, and this could be a medical bay, or so many different things we can do with it. There's also, like I said, our speeder. So it could be like some kind of a mechanical shop, whatever. I like the weapons locker kind of idea. But like I said, we've got the walls. So either I'm going to have to add walls to the base and have this a cube that will slide in. Even if it's, and here's what will probably work best. I was calling these pony walls. Maybe have just a flat sheet of styrene all the way around that would come up to like maybe that high, and then we can build up off of that. But that is where we're going with this. The main thing that I need to do now is figure out what the environment is going to be. Is it going to be a snowy, wintry environment? Then I would want it to, which it probably won't be, since the Billy is white. I would say a snow environment would have to have a white tinge. Desert planet, you know, tans and browns. Deep space, maybe grays and blacks or whatever. I got to figure that out first. That's the first thing, because I want to paint the droid charging stations. My first thought is to make those semi-gloss black, and then the counters and everything a different color from there. I need to do some research. Decisions have to be made, but I figured at this point I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update where I am with it. Like I said, we're not rushing to the finish line on this one. It's one that we can just kind of pop in from now and again, and you know, I figured this out. We're going to do this and get that one thing done, and then I'll tell you about it. So we got the layout done. We got lighting in there. I think that's a good start. So until next time, until next update, have fun, be safe, and go build something. Pew 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 pew.